This is Tank's Vlog for October 28th, 2018, ramping up the day in sports. We're brought to you by Allow Me to Be Frank, the weekly podcast you can hear on SoundCloud and iTunes. Give a listen. We have a great archive of shows, including our latest show with David Strauss from MyBookie AG. So you want to go listen every day. There's so many episodes now you can listen every day and hear something different. You can stick a fork in the Los Angeles Dodgers because they are dun 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 dun. Dun, 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 the Dodgers are dun, dun, dun. You know, you had that great, classic 18-inning win in Game 3. That gave you life. That made your heart beat for the first time in the series. You're going boom, 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 boom. And then you go out there in Game 4. You get a terrific start from Rich Hill. You get a 4-0 lead. Yasiel Puig lifts and launches a home run off of Eduardo Rodriguez, who pitched well. Eduardo Rodriguez pitched well. I mean, both teams had their bullpens blown apart with the Game 3 marathon. So both teams got what they needed. Terrific starts from unexpected starters. Eduardo Rodriguez of the Red Sox, Rich Hill of the Dodgers. And Rodriguez tired. Cora probably left him in a little too long, longer than he probably should have. So he tires in the 6th, allows 4 runs. All of a sudden, we're looking at a real series. It's tied. Dodgers are on the verge of tying the series at 2 games apiece. Now, Dave Roberts has quite often been too quick to go to the bullpen. He did it last year in the World Series, and now he's done it this year in the World Series. Rich Hill had only allowed 1 hit. Okay, he walks the leadoff batter, but then he gets the second guy out, and then it's time to bring the bullpen. Alexander walks the only batter he faces, and then the implosion. 3-run homer by Mitch Moreland, and the Red Sox now have life. And giving, the most important inning in baseball, the most important inning for any team is the inning after you score. You need to put a 0 up. And the Dodgers, instead of getting up 0, put the Red Sox right back in the game with 3 runs. Steve Pearce hits a home run off Kenley Jansen. 2 days in a row. Yesterday, they said Kenley Jansen doesn't pitch well when he has to come in for a 6-out save. He's never done it. So he tried it again, and he got burnt again. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. And with a 1-run lead, you just knew the Red Sox were going to tie it off of Jansen. You just knew it. Florio comes in the 9th, implodes. Red Sox score 5. Dodgers get 2 back off of Kimbrel, who's just been brutal this entire postseason. But the 5 runs was enough cushion. Red Sox win 9-6. And they could win the World Series on Sunday. And here's what the Dodgers face. You got Chris Sale, who hasn't been lights out in the postseason, but he's been adequate. I think that's a good word you could use for describe Chris Sale, is adequate. He's pitched well in most cases. He hasn't been horrific. He hasn't been terrible. He hasn't been outstanding, but He's been good enough. Going against Clayton Kershaw. Clayton Kershaw, whose postseason history is just to say, let's just say it's checkered. He'll come up with a good start once in a blue moon, but that blue moon doesn't come around that often. And when Clayton Kershaw has to pitch in a elimination game, it usually doesn't end up well for the Dodgers. So, at the beginning of the series, I predicted Red Sox in 5, and I think the baseball season will come to end tonight. NHL. Let me do the NHL before I get into the NCAA. I went to the Devil game today. 2 o'clock, a noon start. Very rare start. You don't see many teams playing hockey games at noon, but the Devils did, and they were sluggish in the first period. Scored late in that first period. Kyle Palmieri, who's just having a tremendous season so far, his 8th goal of the year. They took a 3-0 lead, and in the last 10 minutes, almost shit on a 3-0 lead. Allowed 2 goals. They were tentative. The only thing is the Panthers just aren't that good enough to take advantage of. They fired 37 shots on Keith Kincaid, and those last 10 minutes, the Devils just played brutal hockey. I mean, they're lucky the game wasn't a 62-minute game to go. So I do believe the Panthers would have tied it if this game would have lasted another 2 minutes. But fortunately, the Panthers' second goal came with 45 seconds left, rather than with a minute left, and Devils held on to win 3-2. It was the Islanders, 6-1 winners over the Flyers. Brock Nelson with 2 goals. The Oilers beat the Predators 5-3. It was the Capitals in a shootout 4-3 over the Flames. Carey Price was right on Saturday with a 33-save shutout as the Canadiens beat the Bruins. The Maple Leafs lost Austin Matthews to an injury. We'll learn more about that in the coming days. I mean, that could be a devastating injury. But scored 3 goals in the third period to rally to beat the Jets 3-2. It was the Blue Jackets 5-4 winners in overtime over the Sabres. The Blues down the Blackhawks 7-3. It was the Wild 3-2 winner over the Avalanche. The Coyotes beat the Lightning 7-1. And the Penguins slammed the Canucks 5-0. NBA, quickly. As quickly as we can possibly get the NBA. If the thing doesn't stop buffering, every night I'm buffering. Ah, here we go. It was the Celtics handing the Pistons their first loss of the year with a 109-89 win. It was the Jazz hitting all the right notes to beat the Pelicans, who were without Anthony Davis, 132-111. The Bulls beat the Hawks 97-85. Oh boy, yes indeed. The Indiana Pacers 119, and the Cleveland Cadabers 119-107. Yes, that's right. This might show you how good of a player LeBron James is. The Cadabers are 0-6, and from hence on out, they should no longer be called the Cavaliers, because they are the Cleveland Cadabers. It was the 76ers edging the Hornets 105-103. The Heat was too much for the Trailblazers 120-111. It was the Grizzlies 117-96 winners over the Suns. Milwaukee Bucks remained unbeaten, beating the Magic 113-91. It was the Spurs edging LeBron's new team 110-106, beating the Lakers. Now we get to move on to the NCAA. And it's 3 cheers for old Notre Dame, as they are now 8-0, beating Navy 44-22. In control all night, 27-0 lead at the half. Allowed Navy 14 points in the third quarter. But every time Navy scored, Notre Dame answered, even though they played half speed in the second half. Ian Book, nice game, 330 yards, 2 touchdowns. Dexter Williams ran for 142 yards with 3 touchdowns. And now the Irish move on. They'll be playing next week in Northwestern. Northwestern today, a little bit of an upset. They stunned number 20 Wisconsin 31-17. So you never know what Northwestern team you're going to get. You're going to get the Northwestern team that beat Wisconsin today, or the team that almost lost to Rutgers last week. So Notre Dame better be on its guard. Let's see. We've got Clemson beating Florida State 59-10. Oh no, we suck. Oh no, we suck. Something tells me Willie Taggart's tenure in Tallahassee is not going to be very long. I mean, the Seminoles have been an unmitigated disaster. And they lose today 59-10 at home. Have you ever seen Florida State throttled like this? They allowed 28 points in the second, 24 points in the third. I mean, this team is an embarrassment this year. Texas Longhorns got all the way up to number 6, and now it's time to go back down. Boom. It's a loss to Oklahoma State, 38-35. And then both coaches on the team had to be separated at the end of the game from going at each other. As Mike Gundy told the Longhorns, "I'm a man! I'm a man!" It was Georgia in the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, tying up the Gators, 36-17. Both teams were 6-1 going in. Gators, though, were exposed as a team that were 6-1, basically because they played nobody. Jake Fromm had a big day, 240 yards with 3 touchdowns. It was Oklahoma, 51-14 over Kansas State. Wildcats not having a good year. Kentucky actually is having a good year, as they rallied to beat Missouri, winning on a last-second touchdown, 15-14. It was Washington State edging Stanford, rallying in that game. Very disappointing year for the Cardinal, as they dropped to 5-3, while Wazoo is 7-1, and all of a sudden looking like the top team in the Pac-10. Pac-12, I should say, because the Washington Huskies absolutely blew a big one, losing to California 12-10. You could say goodbye to the Huskies. I mean, all this promise, and what a disappointing season. I thought they were the top team in that conference, and it just shows you just how mediocre middle of the Pac-12 actually has been all year. Mississippi State upset Texas A&M 28-13. It was Penn State holding off mistake-riddled Iowa 30-24. Oregon, another Pac-12 team who is supposed to have high expectations, getting hammered by Arizona 44-15. I mean, the Pac-12 has been so bad this year, they should lose their Power 5 rating and be replaced by the American Conference. At least the American Conference has a quality top 10 team in Central Florida. Speaking of the American Conference, these are two teams. If these two teams were in a different conference, they'd both be ranked. Only one team is ranked, and now Houston will probably go into the top 25 after out-slugging South Florida 57-36. It was Syracuse. Good year for Syracuse. They have to play Notre Dame later at Yankee Stadium, but today they beat North Carolina State 51-41, assuring themselves of a bowl game. Let's take a look around other games in college football outside the top 25 and that were played on other days. On Thursday night, in the ACC, Georgia Tech slammed Virginia Tech 49-28. On Friday night, it was Boston College dumping the U 27-14. The Eagles are now bowl eligible. On Saturday, Wake Forest absolutely creamed Louisville 56-35. The Cardinals, not a good year. 2-6, 0-5 in conference. You could say goodbye to Louisville. They will not be going to a bowl game. Virginia beat North Carolina 31-21. And it was Pittsburgh 54-45 over Duke. In Big 12 action, on Thursday, West Virginia beat Baylor 58-14. Very good year for West Virginia. Will Grier, possible Heisman candidate, 353 yards and 3 touchdowns. Although this game was on Thursday, nobody watched it. On Saturday, it was Iowa State beating Texas Tech 40-31. Kansas won their first game in October in years, beating TCU 27-26 as Puka Magic gave Kansas its game-winning score. Let's take a look at the American Conference, a non-Power 5 conference that's got some decent teams. Although UConn is not one of them, losing to UMass 22-17. It was Cincinnati 26-20 winners over SMU in overtime, and Tulane beat Tulsa 24-17. The big star, of course, is Central Florida, and they were off this week. Big Ten. In a game on Friday, it was Minnesota over Indiana 38-31. On Saturday, Michigan State bounced back nicely from their win over Michigan, beating Purdue, who could not follow up their win over Ohio State, losing 23-13. Nebraska, embarrassed all season, got their first win last week against Minnesota. This week played punching bag Bethune-Cookman and won 45-9. Of course, Bethune-Cookman is the team that Rutgers likes to schedule, so they get a free win too. So, don't feel too good about that win, Cornhusker fans. It was Maryland, 63-33 over Illinois. The Illini. You want to talk about a program that's just been in ruin for so long? You know, 90 years ago, almost 100 years ago, they had Red Grange, biggest star in college football. They had, even Dick Butkus went to Illinois. What's happened to Illinois? How come Illinois can't produce a good winning football program? They should really have a good football program. And yet they can't. They can't do anything. They've been so bad in the Big Ten for a long time. They're almost as non-competitive as Rutgers. Going on to the middle of the Pac-12. In a game on Friday, it was Utah 41-10 over UCLA. On Saturday, Oregon State handed Colorado their third straight loss. So much for that 5-0 start. This is just how bad this conference is. As Oregon State, the horrific Beavers, beat the Buffaloes in Boulder 41-34 in overtime. Also losing on Saturday was USC as they fell to Arizona State at home 38-35. Now they've had some injury issues, but what a awful year for the. I mean, the Pac-12, could that conference be any worse? Mountain West. On Saturday, we had Boise State with a big game by Brett Rippon, beating Air Force 48-38. On Friday night, it was Wyoming 34-21 over Colorado State. Utah State were 61-19 winners over New Mexico. Big year by the Aggies. You got San Jose State ending their winless streak. Their first win of the year against UNLV 50-37. While Fresno State improved to 7-1 with a 50-20 win over Hawaii. And Nevada upset San Diego State 28-24. Now we get to move to the SEC, the biggest conference in the country. It was Vanderbilt, 45-31 winners over Arkansas. The Razorbacks are winless in conference play this year. South Carolina beat Tennessee 27-24. As the Volunteers continue to remain lost in the wilderness. Take a look at our top 3 stars of the night. And we're talking about Steve Pearce, who's game-tying homer and 3-run double. Basically took the heart out of LA, showed it to him, and then bit a chunk out of it. Brett Rippon of Boise State passed for 399 yards with 5 touchdowns in a win over the Air Force. And Carey Price, who had 33 saves in a shutout over the Bruins. Today's birthday shout-out goes to the athlete previously known as Bruce Jenner, now known as Caitlyn Jenner, after having the surgery. So Caitlyn Jenner is now 69. Shut up, Rob Gronkowski. Shut up. Shut up, Gronk. I know you're watching, Gronk. Shut up, don't laugh. It's very immature, Gronk. And we take a look back to 1973, when Elmore Smith had 17 block shots for the Lakers. Now, block shots were not an official stat until 1973. So we don't know how many block shots Wilt Chamberlain had in a game or Bill Russell. But Elmore Smith's 17 block shots remained the record for the most block shots in a single game. And it was just a part of a crazy week where he had 10, 14, 17, and 14. And each time he did that, it set a record. So check out the full story at Barstool Sports and Sports Encyclopedia, where sports history lives. Don't forget to listen to Allow Me to Be Frank. And it's NFL Sunday. My picks have been up for a couple days on Barstool and, of course, my website as well. And the Jacksonville Jaguars. Dun, 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 dun. We go to London, don't have to pay our bill. That will be paid by Roger Goodell. Oh shit, we've been arrested. We are now in a sticky wicket. Oh, the Eagles are gonna have a field day. The Jaguars have been boarded and are now a dumpster fire. Stiff upper lip now, Jacksonville. Stiff upper lip. You've been, I say, copped it. I say, Watson, I think we've been bortled here. Yes, elementary, my dear Holmes. If you think your quarterback is Blake Bortles, you're gonna eventually implode. Well, chip, cheerio, and have a good day. Splendid, splendid.